Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I'm going live about now. I definitely did not expect to be streaming today. It's 8 p.m. my time. I'm freshly out of the shower. But we did actually get today something that I expected to be getting either tomorrow or the day after that. So you see here in my Chrome preview, I quickly threw up a thumbnail and everything. This is not a very well prepared live stream. But alas, we actually have a lot to talk in terms of last minute leaks before the iPhone 17 events. It should be noted that the confirmations are not quite as detailed as I would have liked, but Mark Gurman from Bloomberg did come out, talk about the redesign of the iPhone 17 Pro, potentially other products like the next HomePod Mini, and I think that's really worth summarizing, giving my last 2 cents. Maybe I'll consider streaming on Sunday if there's any other last minute leaks or so, but beyond this stream, it's pretty much it for until Tuesday, right? And then after that, as I promised, of course, follow-up coverage, me reacting to reviews, and of course, me down the road, since I'm buying myself 17 Pro Max, AirPods Pro 3, and some cases to compare to see how tech woven and everything does. So there will be plenty of coverage to go on later on. Obviously, we do not just cover Apple stuff. My last stream was about the latest Galaxy event. In fact, we actually do have some Galaxy S26 leaks, some that are encouraging in some ways and very disencouraging in other ways. So hope there is something for everyone joining. I already see Riley in the chat, our master yapper, saying hi. We have Angelica, one of our MarkTech Pro Max channel members, joining, saying she is looking forward to a meeting as always. That's cute. We have Nathan Baker, who I haven't seen since when? The last Apple event? Since WWDC or so, saying hi, and we have Rosa joining, saying hello. So thank you to all familiar and less familiar faces. Obviously, you can see something new on my dock. I sometimes get questions from you guys, what is on my dock? Most of it has been explained by now. Well, tonight we have a new addition to my dock, which is, of course, Hollow Knight Silksong, a highly awaited game. I am terrible at these kinds of games, but hey, I have my controller ready, and we're gonna try it out at least a little bit by the end, I think. If you're wondering, if you're hearing some kind of faint fan-like noise, that's because something on my Mac, whatever OBS is doing, I've tried restarting it, is causing my fans to go haywire. I checked activity monitor, it was not helpful. It basically said it's a Windows server / a kernel task, which could be related to any app I have open. I highly doubt it's Chrome or YouTube or Safari, given that I use all these apps. I highly doubt it's Chrome by itself, but I mean, I could actually turn it off and see where that brings us. But yeah, obviously we'll have to turn Steam back on once we enable Hollow Knight Silksong, because some bad news among some good news. While Hollow Knight Silksong is coming out and is very well optimized for Macs, in fact, both Intel Macs and Apple Silicon Macs, but also it's unfortunately only on Steam and GOG. It's not on the Mac App Store. It's not a universal purchase with iPhones and iPads. Not that there is an iPhone and iPad version. Not that this game would even work really well on a touchscreen, but hey, if you have a controller, I would love to play it on my iPad. It's very affordable. It's $19. I think it would actually do really well, even if it's restricted to only being used with a controller. So yeah, I believe it's Project Cherry or Team Cherry to the developers. Please bring out this game to iPhone and iPad. Given how well it runs, even on M1 Series Max, you can easily bring it to A17 iPhones and 3 iPads and beyond. To be honest, M1 iPad should be more than fine, given that this runs on like Intel Macs from 2015. Yeah, but that's about all the intro yapping out of the way from me. Before we fully start, I would like to encourage you guys to do the YouTube jazz, as we call it around here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Like this video, share it out with anybody who you think might enjoy it, and of course comment. You guys know I love interacting with a lively comment section, getting your opinions. Maybe you have some news and rumors that I might have missed. You see, I already have like the home pages even of Mac Rumors and 9to5 Mac open. So if there are some last minute leaks that happen right while I'm streaming, hopefully I'll be able to still include that in the stream. Judging from my fans, it might actually been Steam, which just confirms my hatred towards the Steam client. I already used the ARM optimized version. It's been a few betas now. They really should be not like destroying my M1 Max MacBook Pro. I wonder what would happen to like an M1 Mac, or like an M2 MacBook Air without fans or something like that. That's really unfortunate. And this is why I always say, while I do appreciate the competition that Steam brings, that GOG brings, even to a lesser degree the Epic Game Store, of course, please, developers, bring your games to the Mac App Store, because otherwise we are forced to deal with like the second-class citizens treatment of Mac users by Steam. The Epic Game Store app is a complete mess that takes like a minute to open, even on high-powered devices. GOG is just not very well known, so please, bring your stuff to the Mac App Store. It takes very little effort. You pay basically the same commission as you do on Steam, and you reach a completely different audience, and you get to avoid issues like what you've just felt. If you've stopped now hearing a fan-like noise, that's because my fans are now coming to a much more comfortable humming. That's now really it for the intro yapping, though. You can also support this channel via super chats and super stickers. Shout out to our channel members. You can also become one, but shout out to Angelica, Steve, Max, Maximus, and Jonathan, our MarkCheck Pro Max supporters here on YouTube. And shout out to Benveni, our MarkCheck Pro Max supporter over on Patreon. You can find the link to that in the description, as you can, of course, our Discord. Join that. I think that it will be very lively once the new iPhones are out, the new AirPods, the new Apple Watches, people sharing their own impressions, sharing reviews by other people, summarizing data that we get from the internet. So plenty of new things to experience in this community. And before I actually fully start, cheers, because I do need some caffeine inside me. It is 8 p.m. and I had a very busy day. Again, I did not expect to be streaming right now, but I'm still looking forward to it. I think this will be a fun stream. Let me quickly check if my audio and video quality looks all right. Yes, as always, let me know if there's something wrong with the stream, whether it's my internet or something messed up in OBS. That happens too. I wish there was like an OBS alternative too that was simpler designed and more optimized, but hey, we have to take what we get. I'm already happy that honestly the support for Mac is much stronger than I honestly anticipated when Apple Silicon came out in 2020. It's looking quite good. It looks actually great, I would argue, with like productivity apps, and it's looking surprisingly good in gaming. I think that over time it will keep getting better and better, especially as more and more games also target iPhone and iPad. And since there is a shared architecture, a shared storefront, I think that more and more games, be they AAA, AA, or complete indie titles, will find their way to Mac, especially with the increased capabilities, higher efficiency of Apple Silicon, and now with the M4 generation, a higher amount of base memory, 16 gigabytes. That should be plenty for most games on a unified memory system like Apple Silicon. So yeah, that's about my 2 cents for the current development of third-party apps on Mac. So cheers, guys. And without further ado, let's actually get started. So Mark Gurman gave us a last minute report. I don't know if it's his last minute report. Seems a little bit like it. I should note, unfortunately, this report is behind the ridiculous paywall of Bloomberg. So it's not part of the Power On newsletter that he publishes weekly, which I assume is probably just going to republish this article in like 2 days or so. Great way to double dip, Mark. But yeah, I'm not paying 45 euros a month for Bloomberg, nor am I paying $200 a year for Bloomberg, because there's apparently no way to just buy my way into like all tech reporting for like $10-20. It's already $10 just for the stupid tech newsletters, and that does not include standalone articles. So big thank you here to 9to5Mac, Mac Rumors, other Apple aggregation news sites that do summarize what Mark Gurman has posted. So if there's anything that I'm missing from this article, it's because unfortunately, unlike with a Power On newsletter that I do have full access to, I do not have access to the actual original article. I thought of maybe subscribing for like $2 for a month, which is like for the first month, but then if I forget to unsubscribe, I'm paying 45 euros from the hands-on. Nah, I'm not doing that. Let's start, though, with what Mark Gurman is reporting. And it starts with some of the smaller stuff, because a lot of the smaller stuff is actually much bigger than we might have anticipated. Obviously, we are awaiting a second generation HomePod Mini. The current HomePod Mini is several years old, is running on a pretty outdated Apple Watch chip, is running on a Wi-Fi 4 modem. So there's a lot to optimize and improve here. Obviously, it's also rumored to share a new Wi-Fi modem with an upcoming Apple TV 4K. I do have some questions what's happening with the big HomePods. Are we really not getting updates on that front? Or maybe they're just getting the chip, so it's kind of being forgotten, or those big HomePods will just turn into that eventual HomePad, that combination of a HomePod plus basically like a mini tablet screen to control your home accessories and stuff. I really hope we finally get just high-powered new HomePods with a good Wi-Fi modem that I can use as stereo speakers for my TV going forward. But apparently HomePod Mini is selling a lot better. It's a cuter device, it's a cheaper device, it's a smaller device. People are more likely to put one in every room around their apartment. So Apple seemingly has more interest in updating the HomePod Mini rather than the big HomePod, at least until we get that eventual HomePad. So according to Mark Gurman, HomePod Mini 2 could offer 6 new features. Well, what are those features? Well, Mark Gurman writes at Bloomberg, HomePod Mini is set to get a new chip to also support the new Siri and Apple Intelligence features. Now, with the new Siri, I assume you would still have to wait for the new Siri. I'm really interested in what the new chip is, because we've obviously heard about the new modem, which is going to be like a Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7 modem. I'm going to get to those details a little bit later on. But is it actually going to be like an A17 or A18 chip? Is it actually going to have 8 gigabytes of memory? What is Apple doing here to make the new Siri and Apple Intelligence features run? Will some of it simply rely on connecting to your iPhone, or will Apple give the HomePod access to private cloud compute in a way that iPhones don't? That will be very interesting to find out. It's also due to get an updated wireless chip, a new ultra-wideband chip, and improved audio quality, and Apple has tested also new colors. So the new chip would be a replacement for the current S5. With the new chip, we are getting Apple Intelligence, and with Apple Intelligence, we are getting eventually a new large language model-based Siri, an upgraded ultra-wideband chip. That makes sense. That's also something that's rumored to be coming to like new AirTags. In general, Apple is working on improving the efficiency and the long range of ultra-wideband. Granted, that's not going to be as game-changing for a HomePod Mini as it is for AirTags, because they obviously rely on the ultra-wideband for location stuff. The HomePod Mini relies on ultra-wideband to know if devices are close to it. That way you can actually do handoff with media. Like if you're playing some music on the iPhone, you can tap it to your HomePod, and through ultra-wideband, it's know you're there, and it's going to continue playing your music. It also works though with the regular HomePod, because as with my ancient HomePod, that definitely does not have ultra wideband, and that because this feature can also work over Bluetooth Low Energy. Improved audio quality, that one is pretty subtle, but also pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, the HomePod Mini is most likely not going to suddenly match the audio quality of the big HomePod, but it definitely can stand to get a little bit louder, a little bit more bassy, increased dynamic range. How much better it's going to be, and whether it's a substantially more expensive audio system, that will be interesting. Is Apple going to increase prices by $10, $20? This device will also be impacted by tariffs, so what will that mean for the pricing? New colors, with red being now a possible one, and the previously rumored Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip. So once again, a reminder that this is separate from the main processor powering the actual HomePod. Though, of course, given that, as I mentioned, the current HomePod Mini runs on something as outdated as like a Wi-Fi 4 modem, a new Apple in-house designed Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip that's at least Wi-Fi 6E, possibly Wi-Fi 7, is going to be a huge improvement. With Bluetooth, I assume it's going to be at least Bluetooth 5.3 or 5.4 or something like that. Maybe Apple jumps all the way up to Bluetooth 6. That would be interesting. We're seeing some Bluetooth 6 usage already in some Android flagships. Again, it's probably not going to mean anything to the regular consumer because, well, you're not really downloading super huge files here. Though with Wi-Fi being really congested these days, with you having a lot of devices on your home network, with your neighbor's Wi-Fi and your neighbor's devices competing for all the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz spectrum, even partially the 6 gigahertz network, it really is good to have a new, more powerful, more efficient Wi-Fi modem. With Bluetooth, it's probably not going to change much because, as you know, HomePods do not allow you to actually connect to music devices via Bluetooth. They only allow that via AirPlay, which is obviously enabled through Wi-Fi. Bluetooth is used as an authentication method between devices communicating, but the actual transfer of data, the peer-to-peer connectivity, is happening through fast and low latency Wi-Fi connectivity. Again, how Apple is planning to bring a Siri and Apple Intelligence here is going to be interesting. Now, it should be noted that there's also a rumor that the new Apple Watches would get more Apple Intelligence support. Obviously, through their connection to iPhones, they are getting some Apple Intelligence support anyway. So maybe a new Apple Watch S11 chip would be powerful enough, though that makes no sense given current Apple Intelligence requirements for like iPhone 15 Pro and up, M1 and up, A17 iPads and up. So yeah, it's really going to be interesting how exactly it's implemented, how much it relies on iPhone, how much Apple might open up cloud capabilities for Siri, at least for devices like the HomePod. And of course, I'll be there to cover it all. But that's, of course, one of the smaller devices. Let's get to a bigger device, though unfortunately not one that's seemingly getting an update at this event. Makes sense, would make the event a little bit too crowded, but we're also getting some new details about not even a next generation Apple Vision Pro, but some changes that Apple Vision Pro might have gotten or might get in the end. But also maybe Apple will just reserve it for Apple Vision Pro 2. So this is again coming from Mark Gurman, as is most of the stuff I'm covering today. Apple is poised to release the first hardware update to the Vision Pro. The controversial, again, it's controversial because some people just force a level of success expectations on the HomePod, on the Vision Pro, that I think was never justified. And just because Apple makes it, and that's what I tell everyone, like, you might love iPhones, you might not love the Mac, right? Because maybe you're just way too into gaming to love Macs. You might love the iPad for simplicity, but you might not like the Apple Watch, right? Maybe you just don't even want a smartwatch in general. I'm trying to tell people, just because you like Apple or certain Apple devices, the more Apple expends, the more Apple makes, the more likely it becomes that certain products, even entire product categories from Apple, might just not appeal to you. Vision Pro does not appeal to me, not because of its weight and not even because of its pricing. Primarily, my eyes get really tired from virtual reality. In fact, I haven't now touched my PlayStation VR 2. Again, some great games have come out that I have really expected. Some smaller stuff, because unfortunately PlayStation doesn't do too much first-party AI stuff. But my eyes just get tired from Vision Pro. Kev Chata, I haven't seen you in a while as well. Man, I really should try to stream more at late in the evening. It just attracts people that are usually not here. We do have last minute leaks, or at least leak confirmations by Mark Gurman, leading up to, of course, the upcoming Apple event. So that's why I'm here. And I might play some Hollow Knight Silksong with you, just to show you how it runs on the Mac. So that's why I'm here. I was just streaming yesterday, which I had hoped that means I wouldn't be having to stream today. Obviously, I enjoy my streams, but I do have a busy week schedule. But yeah, you can check it out. Yesterday, I was reacting to Samsung's latest Galaxy event. That was quite cringy, but now we are back to mostly Apple stuff. Going back to the Vision Pro, which Mark Gurman calls controversial and slow to sell mixed reality headset that launched in February of 2024. That should also be noted. This device is not even 2 years old, yet people treat it as if it's like a half-decade to decade-long endeavor by Apple that has like fully failed. Whatever, but the update won't be much to write home about. Apple is swapping out the chip from the M2 to something newer. They tested both the M4 and M5, so this is Mark Gurman kind of leaving some wiggle room for himself, because he himself has talked about the M4, while most other leakers have actually talked about the M5. Given that we are expecting Apple Vision Pro 2 to come out early next year, I assume like 2 years after the launch of Apple Vision Pro 1, and the iPad coming out this fall, probably actually next month, is going to be powered by M5. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple Vision Pro 2 is powered by M5. It's also considered a space black version. The company is planning to roll out a far cheaper and lighter model, as well as smart glasses over the next 2 years. Yeah, again, I always try to say take these kinds of extra rumors with a grain of salt, because stuff like this is very, very much subject to potential delays, cancellations. Now, while I do believe that Apple will make an Apple Vision Air, and I'm sure there will be like an Apple Vision Pro 3, again, with the smart glasses, there are rumors that there are some Ray-Ban-like glasses from Meta, so the ones that basically connect to your phone but don't have any notable compute of their own. There's also rumors about Apple smart glasses that actually do have their own main processor, that do have some independence from iPhone. So it's going to be interesting to see if all those devices come to the market, or if maybe Apple Apple decides that, look, smart glasses are just far sleeker, far more attractive. We can make them cheaper just for size and shipping reasons and complexity of build. So how about we don't make two different Vision Pros and two different smart glasses? Maybe keep one Apple Vision Pro, one smart glass. Again, all of this can and might change. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of nuance, because obviously Mark Gurman is very proud of, and Ming-Chi Kuo as well. They have leaked that entire time schedule for Apple glasses and Apple Vision Pros and Airs in the future. But whether or not all of this is realized in the end will ultimately be up to Apple and to their internal decisions. But yes, this is the first time we've heard about an Apple Vision Pro with different colors. Obviously, Apple does make space black stuff like on Apple Watch Ultra. Obviously, on there are different iPhone colors, iPad colors. So it's not the most surprising thing ever. Man, you guys might not hear it, but there's so much freaking either police or more likely emergency stuff happening outside my window. It's constantly like wee oo, wee oo. It's really actually distracting. It's much more distracting than the fan noise from my MacBook before that. Yeah, and another one, there must have been a fire or somewhere, or a big medical emergency. So if I look a little bit distracted, sometimes looking a little bit to the left, it's because I'm looking to my window. Yeah, obviously this is not a huge leak, and this is also not a leak that really connects to the actual event. However, this one does. Now, this one does not actually come from Mark Gurman, and this one should be taken with a Mount Everest-sized pinch of salt. However, we have discussed time and time again on this channel that either iPhone 17 Pro or 18 Pro might get a dynamic island design revision, making it smaller, and there are some last-minute confirmations about that supposedly happening. This comes from a previously unknown source, so very, very much prime candidate to not be taken seriously. I'm only including it here very much for the yucks. I don't think it's actually happening, but hey, if it will happen, then I guess we'll have to pay more attention to this unknown source in the future. Jeff Poo has previously talked about this revision of the dynamic island, but then again, Jeff Poo has gotten stuff wrong. Again, we don't yet have official specs of the iPhone 17 lineup, but Jeff Poo has gotten stuff wrong, has predicted stuff that basically every other leaker has predicted differently, right? So Jeff Poo could be wrong here, as could be this unknown source that says that the width of the dynamic island is shrunk to approximately 1.5 centimeter, down from 2 centimeter, which is currently the case on the iPhone 17. So that's about a 25% reduction in width. Again, interesting, would definitely be a further enhancement of the iPhone 17 Pro's aesthetic advantage. Obviously, the Pros have thinner bezels. We actually don't know if maybe the 17 and 17 Air catch up to the Pros in terms of bezels. Supposedly, they're using some of the same bezel-reducing technologies. But we also pretty much know, again, all of this is with a lot of salt and everything like that, because it's not yet confirmed. I mean, we are just 4 days away. So, but seemingly the iPhone 17 Pro, for example, does not reduce bezel size versus the 16 Pro, which is about just 1.5 millimeters. It's one of the thinnest, but not the thinnest bezel in the industry right now. So if you are somebody who really buys iPhone because you want the thinnest bezels possible, that might not be your year to buy iPhones. Though I don't think that really anybody should demand bezels thinner than even the 15 Pro. Quite honestly, I think even the 14 Pro is more than good enough. But then when I look at 15 Pro, which is thinner than the 14 Pro, and then the 16 Pro, which is even thinner than the 15 Pro, you should be quite happy with that. Riley saying, gotta wait another 4 days. The news are boring nowadays. Well, yeah, I mean, what do you expect? It's kind of the calm before the storm. I guess those are the first winds starting to blow, and leakers trying to get like a little bit of notoriety right before the event. I actually might check if there's anything new. No, how do case makers reveal iPhone 17 designs before Apple? Yeah, that's a little bit crazy, the stuff that's happening there. iPhone 17 Pro will drop titanium for aluminum, and this might be why. Well, that is not a new rumor because we've covered it time and time again here. But yes, Mark Gurman has actually talked about, I believe for the first time in a while, about the actual full design of the 17 Pro. So for a while, we've known, of course, that the 17 Pros are getting this elongated camera island, which of course would be able to put more capabilities into the device in general. I mean, the device is already thicker at 8.725 millimeters rather than 8.25. It's supposedly getting a larger battery, vapor chamber cooling. But also think about it, right? If the previous, my God, the cameras are so big now on the current devices. But think about it, right? If the camera island was previously this big, that means that this physical space was not elevated versus the rest of the device. So this gives you more internal space to work with. And I will actually later get to a device that's doing pretty much the same thing, and I think for good reasons, but just for a terrible, terrible outcome, because it just looks like a complete copy of the new iPhones. But we'll get to the Galaxy S26 Edge later on. Riley saying, I want to see big chip numbers. Everything else is trivial. Well, I might have some chip, not numbers, though there are like 1 or 2 numbers over here, but we might have a little bit of chip talk later on. But let's get to the iPhone 17 Pro design, because yes, the redesign is now quote-unquote being confirmed by one of the biggest leakers in the Apple community, Mark Gurman from Bloomberg, in a report outlining his expectations for Apple's event next week. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman said the iPhone 17 Pro models will have a new cutout area on the bottom 2/3 of the phone that doubles as the wireless charging area. That's exactly what we have heard for a while, and now it's coming from the mouth of somebody who we very much trust, or we're kind of forced to trust if we are gonna cover as much Apple leaks and rumors as we do, for example, on this channel, because quite honestly, nobody does as many Apple rumors and leaks as Mark Gurman does. It builds on a lot of leaks and rumors over the last few months, but actually even going back to last year, you guys cannot hear it, but like the emergency sirens, there are still new cars driving there. There must have been a huge emergency happening. I have no idea what's happening. But last year, the information reported that the back of the iPhone 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max would feature a new part aluminum and part glass design. Again, that would be the glass. Metal, unfortunately, unless you want to make super specific cutouts and then try to color match them to the actual design, to the actual metal. Metal is not great for wireless charging. It's not great for radio frequency transparency. It is better for cooling than glass. So much is true, but then again, now we do have a lot of aluminum, and that's also part of the redesign. Now, this is unfortunately not something that Mark Gurman is confirming, but I would be very much surprised if the sources that have kind of predicted this design perfectly in the past are right about the camera island, are right about the metal plus glass like unibody design, but then they're suddenly wrong about the material being used. So if Mark Gurman confirms this part of the design, I kind of think he's also simultaneously confirming the switch to aluminum. Think about it here, because aluminum is a lighter design metal than titanium. If Apple is going to use more metal in the overall chassis, now titanium is not that much heavier than glass. It depends really like how heavy ceramic shield is going to be with the latest version. But now you would put more metal on the overall device, metal here, metal there, right? This metal is heavier than if you switch to aluminum. It's a lot more expensive, and it doesn't bring the advantages of aluminum like better cooling, which better cooling or better sustained performance is gonna be one of the key advantages of this iPhone. It supposedly has a vapor chamber internally. I mean, we even had like photo leaks of the actual vapor chamber from leakers like Majin Buu. And if the heat is distributed more evenly across the entire device, well, we have glass over here, we have glass over here, but now we have so much more metal that could also help distribute that heat to the edges of the device. With titanium, you're really getting very, very little benefit over glass. But with aluminum is like literally what, the third best thermal conductive metal, like after gold and silver. I think no, after silver and copper, right? Yeah, silver and copper. So yeah, to me, this is absolutely like a no-brainer. I don't think that making this aluminum will actually like negatively impact the structural integrity of the device. Could the device potentially dent easier if you drop it? Because aluminum, while it has its advantages like better thermal conductivity, better radio frequency transparency, overall lighter when you use the same volumetric mass of it, well, it is a softer material. There's no way around it. Aluminum is softer than stainless steel. It's softer than titanium. So what it means for scratch resistance, that honestly has less to do with a metal these days than with the anodization process on top of the metal. So the oxygenated layer on top of the metal that is also used to color the metal, and aluminum, at least when we look at Apple's track records, actually has a great anodization, while titanium is more using basically like a layer of paint, to put it in the most dumb ways. So while yes, maybe your device might be more dentable, I don't think it's going to be more prone to scratches. And if you think the device might be more bendable, honestly, I don't think that will matter. We have aluminum flagships, even like the Pixel 10 Pro XL, that have just passed the bend test from Jerry-Rig Everything with flying colors. So I know people are afraid of softer materials, but then again, iPads are made out of aluminum, and really the only reason iPads bend is because iPads are ridiculously thin, which this iPhone is not going to be, because iPads are ridiculously large for how thin they are, right? So the iPhone is smaller from a surface perspective and thicker than the iPad, and the iPad actually uses pretty small amount of aluminum in its chassis. It's very thin layer of aluminum. In fact, Apple made actually the M4 iPad Pro more bend resistant just by eliminating some areas of weakness, which were like microphones, the USB-C port, where the metal gets even thinner, obviously. And despite the M4 iPad Pro being thinner than the M2 iPad Pro, it's actually less bendable. And if you think that an iPhone that, again, has much smaller surface area, also has other materials like glass to work with, and is like, what, 65-70% thicker than the M4 iPad Pro, yeah, I think that Apple will manage bend gate just fine. So I have said time and time again, to me, it's really not about the actual material. I know some people like to say, well, but titanium is a more premium material. Titanium is a more expensive material. The actual premiumness of a product is determined to me by its feel. And aluminum or metal in general and glass, to me, for example, feels more premium than any kind of plastic, even the best plastics, right? But can I differentiate between just completely Apple in-house ceramic shield glass versus Victus 2? Not really. Can I differentiate just in raw feel aluminum versus titanium? Most likely not. So while yes, it will definitely be jarring to see the fact that after 2 years of marketing titanium up front on their website, in fact, if we go to apple.com and we go to the iPhone 16 Pro, I think that titanium is still one of the top 3 marketing points, right? So Apple Intelligence is number 1. And then number 2, how did it move here? What? Oh, like this. Then it's the camera control. Then it's the camera. Strength, beauty, titanium. Well, yeah, it depends on whether you scroll from left to right on the website or you scroll from the top to the bottom. Yeah, so titanium is very, very much a big part of Apple's marketing. Strength, beauty, titanium. I assume they would have some kind of fancy word for the aluminum they use. Samsung, for example, uses the term armor aluminum or aluminium, depending on whether you're American or British. I'm neither. So sometimes I will say one, sometimes I'll say the other. And I assume that will be their marketing point. Plus, obviously, the 17 Pro has a lot of other marketing points: larger battery, better performance, brighter screen even, all the camera improvements. We'll also get to some of them very soon. So, yeah, I think that while maybe it will actually discourage some 15 Pro and 16 Pro owners to upgrade, I doubt that, to be honest, though. But I think for most people, it will just be, oh, Apple used stainless steel, then Apple used titanium, now Apple uses aluminum. Maybe they'll find some it will be liquid glass aluminum or whatever. Which, I mean, they could, given that the design is glass and aluminum, right? If they give this glass maybe some kind of fancy visual effect, they could very much justify connecting it to the liquid glass aesthetic of iOS 26. But at least we know pretty much now that the Apple logo is moving, unfortunately, downwards. So previously, it was right in the center. Then years before that, it was actually in the top portion of the device. And now it's not actually centered around the full device, but it's centered around this glass cutout, which, while I think this looks actually pretty good on a smartphone, I think it looks absolutely horrendous on the leaked Apple Clear cases that we've reacted like 2 or 3 streams ago. So, but if you believe really Mark Gurman, now Mark Gurman is joining the train of other leakers who have said that the new iPhone would be a blend of metal, again, which metal might still be a little bit in discussion, and glass with this cutout on the lower 2/3 of the device with a repositioned Apple logo. I'm actually not sure what it means for the internals of the device, because there's definitely a lot of stuff just switching. Obviously, there might be just a lot more space taken up by like the telephoto camera. We'll get to the reasons why later on. Obviously, the LED flash and the LiDAR scanner and the microphone are moving from here, here, and here to here, here, and here, respectively. Apple uses the Apple logo on the iPad for cooling by making it copper. I don't think that whatever happens, though, that Apple would reposition the A19 Pro chip from like somewhere here for the A18 to all the way down there. the only thing that I could see happening in terms of cooling with the Apple logo is if Apple actually makes a pretty large, pretty widespread vapor chamber across the entire product. Well, then the vapor chamber distributes the heat, right? Here, the aluminum can actually push the heat to the outside, but then right here, Apple could still use like a small copper Apple logo that would also be very good at distributing the heat. Could be copper, could be aluminum, but I'm just saying copper because that's what they're doing on the M4 iPad Pro. But that's about it for the design of the 17 Pro. That does not mean, though, that we are fully done with the 17 Pro, because this is a summary of all the leaks that we're basically getting for the camera of the 17 Pro. Should be noted that we've also seen, I believe that Mark Gurman has made some comments on this. Am I getting this wrong? Is it just a summary? Because obviously Mark Gurman has in the past commented on like its video capabilities, the front camera. Did they just post this article because, well, it's time for leak summary? I don't know why I'm also doing half a British accent half the time. Let me actually... iPhone 17 Pro camera. Yeah, I think this might actually be not a new leak. Or is it? Apple is just days away from unveiling. Today, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman published a preview of what to expect from Apple's September 9 event. In the post, he outlines 5 ways the iPhone 17 and Pro Max cameras will improve. Oh, I opened up a Mac Rumors article, but I should have opened up a 9 to 5 Mac article. The 5 camera features mentioned include video recording will get major enhancements, which is such an absolute death sentence to like the Pixel 10 Pro, which cannot keep up with video recording. Mind you, with the iPhone 16 Pro, most likely, to be honest, not with like an iPhone 14 Pro. So if this is getting major improvements, that's really bad. Telephoto lens upgraded to 48 megapixel. It's not the lens that's being changed, it's the sensor. I also presume that, and this is my own personal speculation, that we're getting a larger sensor with it. I assume Apple might just reuse the same 48 megapixel sensor that they're using on the ultra wide of the iPhone 16 Pro and on the main camera of the iPhone 16e, which is a 1/2.55 inch I believe it's a Sony sensor, which definitely would be larger than the roughly 1/3 inch 12 megapixel sensor. Of course, 4 times the resolution would also allow them to do pixel binning, which also might benefit things like night mode and general performance in low light and other challenging scenarios. The other interesting thing is variable aperture, because variable aperture is a feature that keeps on coming and going in the smartphone space. In fact, all the way back to like my Galaxy S9 that I've owned myself, that phone could actually jump between, I believe, an f1.5 aperture to an f2.4. So you would use like the f1.5 if you needed to capture as much light on the sensor as possible, and you would use f2.4 if you had plenty of light and you wanted maybe a more pronounced bokeh depth of field effect, and what other advantages you will get from a technically smaller, slower aperture. It should be noted that this is Mark Gurman reporting, and while I love Mark Gurman here, we love Mark Gurman here. There's absolutely some Mark on Mark love here, Mark C on Mark K love. Mark Gurman is not the best when it comes to all technical details. Now, do I believe that a variable aperture system could come to the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max? Yes. The question is, to which camera? And my big question is there, like, if they bring a variable aperture system to the main camera, right, the main advantage would actually be to let more light in, I believe. So the current aperture stands at f1.78, f1.8 aperture, basically. We have heard rumors that, for example, the Galaxy S26 Ultra will jump all the way up to an f1.4 aperture, which would allow it to capture like almost 40% more light than it currently does. That is something that Apple could do, but then again, to offset some of the downsides of a generally more flat look of a very wide aperture, they could also create a mode where you get a slower, smaller aperture, somewhere f1.8 again, f2.4, who knows? Maybe it's completely variable and would actually allow you to choose it manually from a certain range. Would a variable aperture system make too much sense on the ultra-wide? Not really. That system honestly just needs a bigger sensor more than anything. And also, well, it would benefit just from a wider aperture. It doesn't really need to be variable. But a variable aperture for the telephoto camera, now we are talking, because well, the telephoto camera could also stand from having a wider aperture to let in more light. But there has also been a rumor that the telephoto system is being upgraded to a variable zoom system. And this is where I'm asking if a variable aperture system is also part of a variable zoom system, or maybe Mark Gurman is mistaking maybe some technical leaks that he has seen about a variable zoom system for a variable aperture system. It's very likely that a variable zoom system would also be combined with a variable aperture system, because keeping the same aperture for completely different focal length would actually mess up the system a little bit. That would also make the system, like if it's both variable zoom and variable aperture and potentially goes from like 3x telephoto to 8x telephoto, that sounds like it's going to be a really big, really expensive camera system. Who knows, maybe it's exclusive to the 17 Pro Max. That also brings us back to the redesign, actually, where not only is the device itself thicker, but the camera island is also bigger. So if you just want to include more space in the telephoto, because the telephoto system is so much more advanced, there's so many more moving parts, that would be a good reason to actually make this large camera island. Where did I have the actual there. So again, I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm not saying it's not simply a variable aperture system. It could be the case, but it's less than a month ago that we got rumors about a variable zoom system. And that to me kind of sounds like it would be working with that. Unfortunately, Mark Gurman does not give us further details about any changes to the telephoto camera. Not even when he says 48 megapixel, he unfortunately doesn't outline like the sensor size. If there are any changes to the optical image stabilization, which is pretty much best in class on Apple's 5X telephoto. He doesn't outline if there are any changes in zoom length, basically, whether we go from 5x to 8x. There have also been leaks and rumors that there might be a 240 millimeter zoomed that would basically be 10x. Now, whether or not that means it's just zooming in on 12 megapixel on the 48 megapixel sensor, or it actually has hardware level zoom capabilities like that, unfortunately, we aren't getting those details from Mark Gurman right now. He also outlines a leak that we've heard previously from John Prosser from Front Page Tech, which is multicam simultaneous video recording. I know some people will say, well, Samsung had that 10 years ago. But then again, this is being combined with major enhancements to video recording. So Apple might have gone crazy, and I've outlined that in previous streams. They could have literally put two image signal processors on like the A19 Pro die or something like that, right? So, or they could have just given the ISP so much more compute that not only can you record simultaneous videos, which, let's be honest, the hardware capabilities for that already exist and have existed for years and years. Even on the more RAM limited iPhones, it would be possible, at least in lower resolutions. But my assumption is that Apple will actually advertise this as like full capability, full HDR, full 4K, 60 FPS, high dynamic range, Dolby Vision HDR, and everything else simultaneously from the front and back. And those videos are not going to be overlaid, though I assume that might be an option in software, but those videos will just be simultaneously recorded and given you basically like, look, unless you're recording at 4K 120 FPS, maybe that will be limited to one camera, but if you're happy with 4K 60, now you can record from any of the back cameras in 4K, potentially some 8K action as well, and the front camera as well. It should be noted, he calls this multicam, so this does not sound exactly like what John Prosser described, which was front and one of the back cameras. It could also mean that you would get simultaneous recording from two of the back cameras. But now I'm really speculating. And he also outlines that the selfie camera will get its biggest upgrade ever. Gurman highlights video recording's major enhancements as the first detail in the article. The only specific he shares is simultaneous front and back camera recording, which unfortunately, right, that sound makes this sound like just a part of this rumor. But I assume there will be more, as does this article. A new variable aperture camera system is intriguing too. Previously, Min-Chi Kuo reported that was coming with next year's iPhone 18. So this is always interesting because now that's an opportunity for Mark Gurman to get something right and to basically get higher on the leaderboard of Apple leakers versus the likes of Min-Chi Kuo. And yeah, if you just compare all the rumored camera features, obviously the front-facing camera is going up from 12 megapixel front-facing camera with a 5 plastic lens to a 24 megapixel camera with 6 element lens, so that should be notable. With 24 megapixels, it will actually match the default resolution of the back cameras, which while they are 48 megapixel sensors, they actually by default record stills in 24 megapixels. All the telephoto lens stuff I've already outlined that potentially might include variable zoom, 8x optical zoom, and then all the video recording changes. Again, unfortunately, not too many details. I know some people have speculated about 8K video. I don't know why I'm saying this like Uncle Roger. 8K video capture. I personally would not use it until Apple finds a way to really compress the files, at which point you might as well just use 4K, but at a very high bitrate. But I mean, they could do it just to have an extra marketing point. And if the ISP is good enough, and if they use a very good ProRes encoder for it, or a new H.265 encoder, or maybe even a new hardware level AV1 encoder, then maybe they could keep sizes relatively compact of those files. Yeah, but that's about it for the iPhone, for next week's iPhone event. There's also more stuff about, again, more smaller devices. We've already talked about the HomePod Mini, but Bloomberg's Mark Gurman has also commented about the Apple Watch Series 11, which according to him will feature a brighter display and fresh new colors. The Series 11 represents a more modest update because obviously the Series 11 was a redesign. I know some people call it a wholesale redesign, but it was a good tweaking. So it will have a MediaTek 5G modem. It will have cellular connectivity. I'm not yet sure if the cellular connectivity might be limited. Not cellular connectivity, sorry, satellite connectivity. If that one might be limited to the Ultra, or might also come to the Series 11. That is the differentiation that Apple just sometimes does. Benveni, our Mark Tech Pro Max Patreon supporter, joined the chat. Hello. I apologize for my very weird streaming schedule. I've streamed at 11 a.m. yesterday. Now I'm streaming at 8 p.m. Usually I'm streaming like right in the middle at like 5 p.m. So thank you still to anyone who's finding their way into the chat. And guys, we've been streaming for exactly an hour at this point. So if you're watching this and enjoying this, please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you're enjoying this, share it out to anybody who you think might enjoy it too, and comment. I love interacting with a lively comment section, getting your opinions, your agreements, your disagreements, your content suggestions, and of course, you can support this channel directly with super chats and super stickers. You can become a channel member right here on YouTube, a supporter over on Patreon, or you can just go to Discord and engage there with the community. The links for all that are in the description of this channel. You guys see also that now the sun has officially set, even though it's looked like that from the outside for like the last hour, but now dark mode is being activated. Yeah, but according to Mark Gurman, the new screen has increased maximum brightness, which does make sense, though it now suggests that Apple might have an even newer version of the screen than the already very advanced LTPO 3 panel on the Apple Watch Series 10. Right now, the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which has not been updated last year, is still stuck on LTPO 2, so maybe both devices just straight up jump to LTPO 4 and keep the more advanced variable refresh rate capabilities of LTPO 3, but also further enhance efficiency, further enhance brightness. But also just from an aesthetic perspective, Apple also plans to shuffle its color and band offerings for the new model. Thankfully, there are no rumors about the band design actually changing, by which I mean like how they connect to the actual device. So all your Apple Watch accessories should still fit if you, of course, have the right size. Although specific details weren't disclosed beyond Apple's intention to address reports of chipping issues with the jet black color offered as part of the Series 10. So whether it's a slightly different jet black or I mean, jet black has a bad history with Apple. Like famously, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus were offered in jet black, and they were kind of known to be the most scratch-prone iPhones ever. But hey, wait, was that jet black? Or jet black iPhone? Yeah, it was the iPhone 7, right? The jet black iPhone refers to a high gloss, dark black finish for the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. Well, thank you, Google Gemini. That's actually quite helpful. Well, what was the black color on the iPhone 8? iPhone 8 black. Was it simply called black at that point? What is this response? Just because I typed in black, it just let images take over and then products? Jesus, Google is getting worse and worse by the day. No wonder they feel they have to pay Apple $20 billion a year to stay the default search engine. This is like a really bad experience. This looks like I clicked on images, but look, like so much of the page is sponsored. And then I get images, but I just would have liked to see like a tech specs thing or whatever. I think it was just called black, but my God, that's such a stupid way to organize Google search. Ugh. Like this is why I hate when people claim like, oh, all these companies, they're so far ahead of Apple and whatever. Like they cannot, like maybe they are, but I don't give a crap if they cannot just get their most basic stuff correct. Yeah, don't forget about AI mode on. Yeah, the mobile stuff when like AI takes over and it just like it just eats up your web page. It's just so fucking annoying. Jesus Christ, I think that's the worst I've ever gotten on a like a desktop page, because look at the horrible spacing and everything. Even here, right? Like, okay, you clearly have the width to at least move it this far. I mean, I wonder, like, why can't you do it this far here? I as well. But now with the images, now you have to present me 2 rows. And now the product stuff is more here. Jesus, could at that point I would actually more support you to have the sponsored stuff just inside the actual product stuff, but just label those individually as like sponsored. Do they have big single core numbers? Well, the iPhone 8 definitely doesn't by today's standards. Which chip was the iPhone 8? That would have been the A11, right? I mean, we can actually look this up. Is this actually still a chip that's somewhat competitive with the Tensor, at least the Tensor G4, maybe not the Tensor G5? Geekbench 6, iPhone. Let's be generous. Let's go with the iPhone 8 Plus. Okay, it's not competitive anymore. Well, good for Google, I guess. Wait, but that really makes the jump to the A12 chip then pretty big, right? Well, that's over 20% gains, then another 20% gains, and then basically another 20% gains year over year, and then roughly a 10, 20, 12, 15% gain. So we are slowing down a little. Once we're getting to the A15, now we're getting another 15-ish% jump to the A16, 15-ish% jump to the A17. I'm saying this also because my iPhone 15 Pro goes close to 3,000. And then this is simply wrong. Like, yeah, like I know the A18 underperforms the A18 Pro, but it's usually more still like 3,400, while this is more like 3,600. Geekbench just usually airs a little bit on the lower side. Yeah, but obviously if we go to like the Tensor G5, which would be here roughly, so that's a at that point that would be a 4-year-old iPhone, and then in multi-core performance that's what, 6,500. So that's somewhere between the A15 and around A16 level, right? Because yeah, I usually see A16 closer to like 6,700. The 4K would be crazy then. Versus this, yes. Though I assume that by Geekbench standards, the A19 Pro would probably end up at around 3,800 points or so, just because they air a little bit on the lower averages. I mean, I could even like 16 Pro Max. Like, let's see what kind of different results we usually get. That's M4 Max. Yeah, but here, 3574, over 9,000 points in multi-core. And that's, on what version of iOS is that running? Is that iOS 26? No. So, not that iOS 26 drastically changes any of that, but that's about the high end of 16 Pro Max. And going from this, we are looking at kind of 15-ish% jump. I mean, let me round this up to 3,600, and then it's 4,000 divided by 3,600. That's a 14% jump. Yeah, that's doable. I'm not sure how doable, again, it's going to be for the 8 Elite Gen 5 or 8 Elite 2, or for the Dimensity 9500, but for Apple, it's definitely doable. I mean, we don't have to go too far back, right? We already have the same architecture as the A18 Pro, going all the way up to 4,000. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if the single core power consumption from like this main core might not be that much higher than what the 8 Elite uses to achieve roughly 3,000 points. But this one is for 4.5 gigahertz. The A18 Pro, I believe, is just around 4 gigahertz. So it's 0.48 gigahertz difference. I could see that. You get like 5% increase in clock speeds, maybe just from the jump to N3P node. Maybe you get 5% more. You get 5% more. Instructions per clock from a new architecture, and then you allow for either higher clocks or some other changes just from the better cooling, because I assume that Apple will allow this chip both in single core and in multi-core to consume a bit more power. That's just part of it. The better cooling, and I think that's just going to be part of the overall narrative. This device is faster, it's more responsive. So yeah, 7% here, 7% there. I could see that happening. Does it have to be exactly 4,000? I don't think so. I mean, it could be 3,950, and it's not like you would feel the difference. But with multi-core, Apple could just push it up to around 10,000. And here you definitely won't feel the difference, especially since it's not even able right now to really very well sustain those 9,000. It definitely won't, even with a vapor chamber. I doubt it would do that great of a job of sustaining 10 or 11,000. So maybe 15% here, 10% here, something like that. That's about what I would expect to happen. That being said, we do have some other chip stuff here, actually, and that is rumors about the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 or Snapdragon 8 Elite 2, however you want to label it. This is coming from Digital Chat Station, a leaker who has also commented and provided multiple iPhone leaks in the past that we have covered on this channel. This article summarizes it, but I'm just going to read straight from the horse's mouth. Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, the latest prototype has been tested, and so this is now a GPU leak rather than the CPU leak, and the game frame rate performance is better, and the power consumption is lower than the Snapdragon 8 Elite. Some ultra-high load mobile games can be reduced by over a watt, or by a watt or more. The goal is to reduce all ultra-high load mobile games to 5 watts. I assume around 5 watts. Plus, I assume it would still allow it to push higher on devices with very significant cooling capabilities, like actively cooled gaming phones, for example. But this number is exactly why whenever I react to Geekervan on this channel, right, like, I mean, Geekervan 8 Elite, I guess. That was 10 months ago. So what was their maximum GPU power usage? This is CPU stuff. Is this just an architectural breakdown? So just the wattage that, of course, they record for like the CPU is insane. Just have to make that sure that it's understood just how insane they believe power consumption is. 16 watts almost for the 8 Elite in just max CPU usage.
Where's
the GPU?
直接渲染，完全没有切块的痕迹啊。
That doesn't help me, guys. So the GPU here, supposedly just the GPU by itself consumes 11 watts or 10 watts, though this is a Snapdragon 8 Elite that is a little bit bottlenecked by slow memory. A lot of 8 Elites don't use 8533 megatransfers per second memory. They use the 10,667 megatransfers per second memory that we see here being utilized in the Dimensity 9400. And then when we look at actual gaming power consumption, and this is always why I hate their numbers specifically for the max power consumption, because they're simply meaningless when you then look at the end state, basically, which is You see the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. That one could go really high, especially on like actively cooled devices or just devices with a generous vapor chamber. But then the power consumption here on the 8 Elite actually went down to around 6 watts. So supposedly this would actually line up with what Digital Chat Station is saying, which is you reduce power consumption by a watt, but still maintain or even improve on frame rates. So I assume that means if you give it even more wattage, maybe in gaming mode or something like that, that would mean it now dramatically outperforms the original 8 Elite. But at least in this kind of scenario, the idea would be, well, it still gives you the full 60 FPS, now maybe actually a fully locked 60 FPS. Well, this doesn't quite get there, 59.5. But instead of consuming roughly 6 watts, it now consumes roughly 5 watts. So, and if you combine that with potential improvements on like Chinese devices that will have 7,000 milliamp hour batteries, 7,500 milliamp hour batteries, that would actually be a really good result in terms of actual battery life for actual usage. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Riley, just like you, I do care about big benchmark numbers and stuff like that, but I will always prioritize real world performance, sustained performance, real world battery life over those benchmark numbers. And I think that the last piece of rumor actually, or leak, is actually now concerning Samsung, which, as I've now called out multiple times, my last stream was actually about the Galaxy event that introduced the Galaxy S25 FE and the Galaxy Tab S11. Well, here we're actually getting a leak for the Galaxy S26 series, and it shows us two things. One thing is potentially really, really good, and one thing is kind of really cringe. Now, these cutouts, supposedly, now I spontaneously would just say, well, they're just for the wireless charging, just for the charging coil. But according to other people who have analyzed these images, they say this suggests that they might actually get the full magnetic Qi 2 ring. So basically compatibility with MagSafe and Pixel Snap accessories from the Pixel 10 Pro. We also get a redesign I'm kind of a little bit neutral on, which is like the camera redesign, because this just looks like they basically said, oh, the iPhone 16 has like vertically aligned cameras with like a round pill-shaped camera island around it. Let's do the same, but for 3 cameras. And then on the Ultra, we're just going to put 2 extra cameras next to them. The more interesting and the thing that I'm calling cringe here is actually the supposed redesign for the Galaxy S25 Edge, for the S26 Edge. So currently the Galaxy S26 Edge actually has a camera island similar to the one we're seeing here, but instead of a third camera, it just puts the LED flash down here, right? But now this one brings us, of course, to the iPhone 17 Pro design that we have covered basically to death at this point on this channel. And Samsung supposedly is just gonna looking to copy it. I should also note that this is less of an iPhone copy, though it is obviously a reaction to the iPhone redesign. But when you look at previous Poco phones, I think they're called Poco. I always forget. Is it Pico? It's Poco. Does somebody mention that? Jesus. Poco phone? I hate those names. Yeah, it is. That I don't know which generation it is. So though I do cover Oppo and Vivo and Xiaomi on this channel, but I do not give a fuck about Poco. So yeah, you can see they have this very much more squared off like rectangular camera island on the back. And yeah, this one is probably an even better example because it's dual camera. So that's basically where the Galaxy S26 Edge is supposedly going. With it, it's also getting it's not quite getting the same treatment as the iPhone, where obviously the LED flash is moving to the other side. But I guess that's because the iPhone has another camera over here, and then it also has like LiDAR scanner and the microphone to put in there. So I assume for Samsung it just would look really, really empty if they just put the LED flash over here and then just this entire space was just fully empty. I do overall like the aesthetic of the cameras for their S26 Pro and S26 Ultra. I do like the idea of getting full Qi 2 MagSafe Pixel Snap compatibility on these devices. But yeah, this design definitely makes me feel that Samsung is still very much on this train of copying Apple wherever they can. We saw that even in the last event, we saw where they basically copied the Apple Pencil Pro. Before that, they copied the AirPods Pro design. Before that, they copied the Apple Watch Ultra design in many ways. So unfortunately, if you're a giant fan of Samsung, for them being more unique from Apple than like Chinese competitors, I honestly think that era might be over. So unless you really prefer One UI or maybe a better focus on the Western market by Samsung, you might now be better off looking into Chinese competition, because Samsung is not that much better now at not stealing from Apple. If that ever meant anything to you, now you might just look into Apple or a Chinese competitor that's likely going to offer you better value than Samsung. But that's not a buying recommendation. That's just some food for thought. Last thing is, I did cover Pixel 10 Pro review by MKBHD. There's still no detailed camera comparisons that I would like to react to. I honestly think that maybe a lot of reviewers are actually waiting for the 17 Pro, just because the launch of the Pixel 10 and the iPhone 17 is so close to each other this year. This is the review for the Pixel 10, so not the Pixel 10 Pro or Pro XL. So don't expect the best numbers here, but there's some interesting stuff. The display is plenty bright. Unfortunately, in their testing, it actually underperforms a little bit the Pixel 9. So we'll see how it directly competes with the iPhone 17 series that's rumored to be getting brighter screens. Now, when it comes to battery life, I know some people might jump up and say, look how bad the battery life is here. With all love to GSMArena, this phone call number sounds like a bug, right? Like, this is an almost 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Usually this is about how well those perform. And usually this kind of task scales pretty well, just between devices with different battery capacities. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is entirely a bug, because the numbers for gaming are also abysmal. So in that regard, I might actually be looking forward to GeekerVan confirming or denying that maybe the GPU is super inefficient. But for now, I would encourage you to take these numbers with a grain of salt. So if you just remove phone call numbers, you'll see that while it still dramatically underperforms a lot of the competition, it's not by as much as it was before. And if you remove gaming, it actually gets closer. Though the fact that it might still underperform something like the Galaxy S25, which has almost 1,000 milliamp hours less in its battery, that's still pretty disappointing. And then, of course, in comparison to the iPhone 16, with a battery that's way over 1,000 milliamp hours smaller, that now just looks pretty embarrassing. So let's hope that these battery results are just an issue of early bugs or early optimization issues, and down the road it will just get a lot better. The other thing, of course, is just raw performance from the chip. We've already covered a lot of benchmarks for the Pixel 10, of course. But yeah, multi-core under 6,000, though the Pixel 10 Pro at least gives you 6,500. which honestly, if the power consumption scales poorly here, this could mean that the Pixel 10 Pro XL that has only like 250 milliamp hours more than the Pixel 10 and a larger screen and a higher resolution screen and a brighter screen might actually underperform the Pixel 10 in terms of raw battery life. But hey, at least the numbers are higher here than the Tensor G4. The single core roughly lines up with like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and other devices, of course underperforming something like Apple's A16 processor. Antutu here's just terrible. I also try telling people time and time again, no, you cannot compare cross-platform Antutu benchmarks. 3D Mild Wildtype Extreme, a benchmark that I definitely consider to be outdated, and it definitely misrepresents the real-world performance of the iPhone 16. Unfortunately for the Pixel 10, while it is here faster than the Pixel 9, Pixel 9 Pro, which unfortunately not every GPU benchmarks actually shows that. There's also a big question with the GPU inside here, which is a Power VR GPU, which is actually a GPU architecture that Apple used themselves. Well, granted, still customized, but still, and a much older architecture until they switched to their in-house GPU architecture with the iPhone 10 and the A11 processor. That also leaves this kind of a no man's land because at least Mali GPUs had some kind of developer support. Adreno GPUs obviously here have developer support. On the Dimensity chips, the Immortalis GPU architectures have some developer support. Will the Power VR GPUs here get any meaningful developer support? I just don't know. I don't think so. Unless the Pixel 10 Pro turns out to be a surprisingly good seller, I guess you could make the argument, well, maybe the Pixel 11 Pro once it jumps to 2 nanometer and everything. But that's another year to wait. That's another year of not building up a big player base, a not big user base. So yeah, I'm just not very encouraged by this. Stability is not great in CPU, but actually pretty. Wait. That doesn't look too good in GPU. I thought it was actually pretty good in GPU. Oh, that was on the Pixel 10 Pro. So, okay, so the regular Pixel 10 cannot even give you that. The CPU started throttling in less than 10 minutes into the test and had to dial down to merely 28% of its max performance at some point. Yeah, and as they're putting mildly here, the Tensor G5 CPU, especially in the Pixel 10, is not the best performing device to begin with. So I've seen some people on Twitter share that their Pixel 10 experience is very stuttery, like micro juddery when you scroll and things like that. And honestly, now I'm inclined to believe that. Maybe when your device is not heat soaked in any way, you might still get enough performance here out of CPU and GPU to maintain a solid 120 FPS in scrolling. But if it is a little bit hotter outside, if your modem has to do more work, yeah, this might just be a device that will be just as underperforming in many ways for the year that's come out. And as the Tensor G4 was last year, as the Tensor G3 was the year before that. And that's very unfortunate because this device is actually based on TSMC N3E rather than Samsung 4 nanometer. So people had pretty high expectations for this. And unfortunately, it seems to be disappointing almost across the board. It's not as efficient as one might have thought. It's not as CPU performant. It's definitely not as GPU performant as people had hoped. And to add insult to injury, it doesn't even sustain that performance too well. Maybe the Pixel 10 Pro does, but man, usually the non-Pro Pixels are kind of like a secret, like a good value recommendation in the tech community, but this year, nah. If you're really a Pixel diehard, get yourself a Pixel Pro, wait until it's heavily discounted, or better yet, wait for maybe the Pixel 11 Pro to fix some issues. But yeah, I'm really not a fan of the Pixel 10. Don't forget, it also has smaller sensors on the main camera. and on the ultra wide, just so it could fit in a crappy 3x telephoto. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of this device. That being said, I actually think that we are now, after almost 1.5 hours, way longer than I expected, we are now done with the leaks and rumors and news section, which is usually all of my stream, but today it's only most of my stream. So now that we are done with this, we might actually try something else, which is we might actually game a little bit for once. That's great. The automatic connectivity to a DualSense seems to be working really well. And now we'll be jumping to Hollow Knight Silksong. Now I have to update Steam, apparently. Wait, can I not start the game without updating Steam? I thought I had installed the Steam client update like just days ago. Did it maybe not install correctly? Is that why Steam was so broken? Okay. Whatever, man. Press PS button to open game overlay. I might. Okay, sound is working. I think I've turned sound off when I originally started the game. But now it's back on. So I'll just reduce the volume a little bit. And then I think we should be fine. Then you'll still be able to hear me. And see how I embarrass myself. Now, the reason I'm starting this, let me actually focus on the technical aspect here. Riley's saying, will I gifted chips with big numbers? What a waste of silicon. Yeah, consider, like, they're using TSMC shit here. Like, this could have at least been used for, like, some decent AMD processors, right? But for video, we do have not a lot of choice. I'm running this at 1080p because that's the resolution that I'm using for streaming. Benveni saying, play some PS5 here. I will. I definitely can stream PS5 because my MacBook is actually connected via Ethernet and my PS5 is connected via Ethernet. Playing Death Stranding, I kind of gave up on the original Death Stranding, and that means that I'm probably not gonna play Death Stranding 2 on the beach. I'll have to see. I really don't have enough time. However, I might stream a little bit of Ghost of Yotei early next month. I think that might be actually quite cool. So you can choose resolution. You can actually choose frame rate caps. I have this at 60 frames inside a 120 hertz container. The reason why I'm doing this is because running this in a higher hertz container allows for lower latency, but the frame rate cap is just better for streaming. Just making sure. Blur quality, particle effects. Oh, there's only low and normal. I assume the low is more for like accessibility questions. And then VSync obviously is to prevent screen tearing, but because I do have a variable refresh rate screen and I'm very unlikely to drop under 60 FPS, I do not have to like bother with VSync. This device runs at 1080p 60 Hertz, even on an M1 chip. This is obviously 4 times more powerful than that. In fact, I've tested it out. It runs at 4K, close to 120 FPS. So this should not be challenging my device too much. Okay, everything else is fine. Let's actually start the game. I should note, I have only played the original Hollow Knight just a tiny bit on my PS5. That looks okay. That looks okay. And I am horrible at these games. The reason why I stopped playing Hollow Knight on my PS5 was because I was terrible at it. So we'll have to see how I perform in this game. They see your beauty so frail and fine. They see your peace woven of faith and toil. They forget your heart bound in slumber and servitude. When you wake, they shall see your truth, a beast's nature bare to all. From Fairmont's Folly by the conductor Romino. Okay, not familiar with any of this. I do have a decent classical education, but obviously it's not perfect. Oh, the HDR actually, I'm not sure if it's just HDR or if it's just the dynamic range of the scene, but it looks good. The cutscenes are 30 FPS, so I've seen that being talked about online. That's an artistic reason here. They've also a nice motion blur here that works with the 30 FPS cap, makes it look more like a movie, or to be more precise, more like a TV show. Yeah, and usually in cutscenes, I don't care about the frame rate. I care about frame rate because it's more responsive in games. But when it's a pre-recorded thing, which granted this is like a pre-recorded video, but I cannot influence the outcome of this cutscene, so I don't really care. I assume I'll cut myself free somehow. And I actually just noticed, you guys can actually see that I have the green light for indicator for the fact that I'm recording and streaming, because that's in the right top corner, and that's where also my camera right now is. This game is beautiful. This is why I always say I find it weird when indie developers don't more often bring their stuff to Mac and iPhone and iPad, because how can I stand up? Okay. Because this stuff is so easy to run for like M1 chips and up. Okay, latency is pretty good with the Bluetooth controller. They also say that the best experience is with a controller in general, so even though this game is on PC, of course, I mean, PC does support controllers, obviously. But yeah, you can play it on the mouse and keyboard, but according to the devs themselves, it's best with the controller. Okay, this is not difficult to kill. Here's Team Cherry. Okay. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. Do not have a double jump. How did I do that? Oh, I have directional attacks like diagonally here. Guys, feel free to ask me Apple questions to challenge my ability to multitask. I assume my family that's usually watching the streams also live sometimes might be mighty confused why I'm suddenly gaming. Okay, I'm not drowning in this water. So I still need to jump. My god, I'm so bad. I can already feel people laughing at me. Okay, there's nothing that... What's my dodge button? Do I not have like a... Do I not have like a Souls-like dodge here? I thought I did. Oh my god, I might actually just struggle from the platforming sections. I'm so bad. Ooh. Oh, I love the sound it makes. That was adorable. What is bind? What does that do? Okay, that's just for jumping higher, apparently. Oh, okay. I should have known that was actually an option. That I can actually move my camera a little bit up and down. And I think that's where it just came from, so no need to jump down there. I might actually be the first streamer who would struggle with these little guys, because I'm just so bad. Like, my forte are games like The Last of Us or God of War, games that I just love and connect to, and I play them for 10, sometimes hundreds of hours until I kind of perfect their gameplay. These like super complicated games that kind of weed you out very early on, they have never been like my forte. don't even want to imagine what higher difficulty enemies are gonna do to me. That this is... Okay, did I get poisoned? I cannot do bind, okay. Thought I might restore some health. But I cannot. Okay, what was that? No! Did you say take? Oh. Frayed rosary string. Oh, that's where I came from. No! Oh no, do I have to go all the way back up? Oh no, I'm such a stupid bastard. No way. Or wait, is that a new... No, this looks like a different area that I came from. Or am I just... Is my brain just failing to remember? No, it's where I have already been. Just let me perform a little bit better than I initially have done. That definitely went a lot smoother than last time. And I didn't get poisoned because I didn't strike down those bushes. And now I can jump. Because yes, apparently white men can jump. Okay, that's the first different enemy. And those little guys. No! I'm so afraid of being like insta-killed. It seems like I'm getting mild better at jumping. So that means absolutely nothing for my long-term ability to survive in this game. Way for me to reach that? No, I do not have any long range attacks or double jumps yet. What's funny is I have absolutely zero idea what I'm doing. Where I'm going and I did jack squat research before this. Okay, I'm getting poisoned again. And now I didn't even hit anything. Guess I'm just that bad at the game. Oh, okay. I think that's the first somewhat challenging. Minecraft when? Does Minecraft have to be well optimized? Also, I'm not... I'm a content creator, I'm not a Minecraft creator. Right, oh, that was pure luck. Pure dumb luck. Am I actually gonna do a decent job? No. Riley, let me know. Does Minecraft have a good Mac version? I know they even have that Pocket Edition on iOS and iPads. Oh! Wait. It's just the first phase. I'm just gonna so die. And I think then I would actually stop the stream, just to not further embarrass myself. Oh, it just, yeah, it just works out. Okay, now I'll be able to jump over her and then attack her from behind. Oh my god! I actually didn't fully embarrass myself! But that was also the same feeling that I had in the original Hollow Knight. Actually dealt with the first few enemies relatively well. And then I just got like completely locked on like enemy number 2 or 3. Oh, okay, they do still have the same like ascent stuff. Okay, let's see. What the fuck is going? Why is the world constantly poisoning me? She's definitely more talkative than. Oh. Oh.
Hey, come on. Hey, look, I'm Papa. Fire. Orala.
Okay, the sounds in this game are adorable. Why, welcome to your land, and let another pilgrim then. Hornet, I was brought to your kingdom by force, captured by guards. How curious.
Cadestre.
I shall seek their citadel. If these wild bucks would go to such lengths to bring me here, I intend to find out why. Ferocious, intimidating, yours is no pilgrim spirit, you're the bearing of a hunter. Come then, fierce traveler, to Farloom, our holy yet haunted land. Permit an old bug of brief warning, best keep the weapon drawn, our kingdom is griped by a course. Okay. I definitely was gonna walk around with my weapon anyway. No concealed carry in Farloom, I guess. Wait, you weren't even gonna heal me? I have to run with like 2 out of my 5 lives? Jesus. Okay. Now I'm slowly getting the hint of how bind works and just don't understand why it's called bind. Bone bottom. Man, everything in this game is so adorably designed.
Tamiayan.
Oh, oralo.
Okay, I can rest here. So I probably shouldn't have binded before that. Enter, what does this do? Oh my god, they look so sad and cute.
Megina fora.
Mia samasa. Fayoma.
Just checking if my stream is still working fine. Yeah, looks good. Hey, looks like I actually could game stream. And funnily enough, whatever OBS, whatever Steam seems to have done while I was opening the game, seems like it was actually like fine afterwards. No way up, at least not here. I'm just gonna find like the next somewhat challenging enemy and just gonna die to them. Okay. Or I'm just gonna find a little grunt and die to them, I guess. I only now noticed that my character does like own light. Oh, I actually died? Oh my god, I'm so bad. Okay, and I restore here. And then if I go back, I'll be able to restore what I had lost. Is that the Souls-like principle here? Did I even lose anything of value yet? I'm not sure that I've collected anything that could be considered of value yet. It was just over here. There you go. Oh, okay. So it wasn't a challenging enemy. I'm just retarded, I guess. Okay, now I guess I found out how death works in this game. It's probably something I'll have to keep getting used to. Oh my god, am I so bad against flying enemies? Oh my god, I'm so bad. No, I actually was clicking on bind. I was trying to restore some health. No way. Okay, I'm really bad. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. We've been streaming for almost 2 hours. I think I'm out of Apple topics and stuff like that. I will stream before the event if there's anything new worthwhile reacting to. But I think for now we are pretty well fed when it comes to Apple leaks and rumors. I mean, I can even check if there's anything else that I've missed. Apple's big India push. True, by the way, Apple is doing incredibly well in India, and now they're producing more in India than ever. And Tim was at another meeting with the Don, with fucking Trump, and with the way Trump seemed to have been really pleased with what Tim Cook was promising. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple in the short term got most tariff exemptions. And then, who knows, maybe in a month or two, the tariffs will actually get fully annulled. Depends on what the Supreme Court ultimately decides. That being said, doesn't seem like there are any new rumors here. And nothing new over here. So guys, thank you. I will be wrapping this up because I do want to have somewhat enjoyable late evening still and a good start then into tomorrow and the weekend. Thank you guys for joining. It was pretty fun. I know that because of the weird streaming schedule, most of you couldn't join, but I still appreciate anyone who came along, who participated in the chat, and I appreciate, of course, everyone who's going to watch the video afterwards as a VOD. That being said, as always, let me know what you would like to see me cover beyond the upcoming Apple event, though, of course, that will define most of my coverage in the near future. Do the YouTube jazz around here, subscribing, liking, sharing. Don't just comment live, also comment afterwards. That helps with the algorithm. And beyond all that, just let me know what else you would like to see me cover, how I can improve my content, how I can better engage with you guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. I'll catch you guys soon again. Before I leave, I actually gonna give you big mark because that's something I usually forget. And with that, I'm tuning out.